All right, final two schools now, starting off with one of the favorite, actually the favorite, according to betting odds, to win the Big 12. That's the Utah Utes, who didn't really have a great year last year, despite being one of the favorites last year to be to win the Big 12. They were number 12 in the preseason AP poll, their second best opening ranking in program history. However, Utah will go on to have their first losing season since 2013. Now, Kyle Whittingham, we know how great of a defensive coach he is and how great of a coach he is. It had nothing to do with the defense last year. That was a top 15 unit in the country in terms of EPA per play. Utah's passing attack ultimately is what tanked the season last year. They had the worst passing grade in the Power 4 with a 48.4 passing grade. Cameron Rising, once again, battled injuries the entire season. 4 different quarterbacks started games for Utah last year in only 12 games, right? So there's basically one every 3 games, Utah had a different starting quarterback out there. The Utes should have more stability under center in 2025. Cameron Rising finally did move on from the program. They brought in a really exciting transfer from New Mexico in Devin Dampier. His development as a passer, along with a questionable group of weapons, will really determine whether or not Utah can get back to being a top contender to win the conference and make the college football playoff.
Well, boy, you know what? He's got questions around him with the weaponry, but he's going to be protected pretty well, isn't he? And they're going to run the football. That's the main appeal with Devin Dampier we'll get into in a second. But this offensive line, you have him as the second best offensive line in the country. Spencer Fano could be a top 10 pick. A lot of people like left tackle Caleb Lomu, Tanoa Togiai on the inside. Man, oh man, I think the core of this, the heartbeat of this Utah offense is going to be their offensive line. It's one of the best in the country, and especially in the run game. You've got Devin Dampier now. You've got Wayshawn Parker coming in from Washington State at tailback. If this team can run the football the way that they might be able to with this offensive line, they're going to be really dangerous. That's where it's going to start for Utah.
Fano is a top 5 player in the country, in our opinion, and the number 1 offensive lineman in the country. We'll talk about him a little bit later, too. But Caleb Lomu, you mentioned him, too. A lot of people think he'd be a first-round pick, maybe an OT1 in the NFL draft. Utah might have OT1 and OT2
possible
in the NFL draft next year. And then not even mentioning, Tanoa Togiai was the 3rd highest-graded guard in the Power 4 last year with a 79 PFF grade. So, yes, that offensive line, my number 2 unit in the country, and you could have made a really good argument for it to be number 1 in the country going into next year. Question mark, like I said before, are the weapons there for Devin Dampier to take the next step as a passer? So, again, revolving door at quarterback last year. That was the biggest reason why they struggled. But Utah was also only 91st in receiving grade last year. None of the transfers they brought in at wide receiver were really stars at their past schools either, including the ones that came from the group of 5 level either. So I still have some question marks about the receiving core. But, Dalton, I will say Devin Dampier was a really enticing player, a really young quarterback last year. I believe he was a redshirt freshman for New Mexico last year. He was really, really good in his first year starting.
Well, you like that at least they have Ryan Davis at receiver coming over with him from New Mexico, who was their second leading receiver. But let's talk about Dampier, because you're talking about a guy who's a dynamic athlete. He was an absolute problem, especially as a runner last year at New Mexico. 86.5 rushing grade, 3rd best among qualified quarterbacks in the country. He's got speed, he breaks tackles, and I think what you really see with him is just a player who's so hard to tackle. Tied for the national lead, I believe, with John Mateer, 54 missed tackles forced. You get this kid behind this offensive line running the football first and foremost, Kyle Whittingham's going to love him. And then, look, obviously at New Mexico, they ran the ball a lot. Then they're going into a lot of play action. 86 play action passing grade, 17th in the country. So I think he's got everything when you talk about his strengths that they're going to look for in this offense. His weaknesses, look, he takes a lot of deep shots because that's how this offense was designed. 11.9 yard average depth of target. Maybe he'll do the same thing at Utah, but you might have to dial it back just a little bit. And then, to me, the accuracy is going to be a thing because obviously he's throwing the ball deep a lot. You're going to be a little bit less accurate naturally, but I think he's a little bit better thrown over the middle of the field than the outside, but I think that's fine. You can build an offense like this with his rushing ability, with this offensive line, and then deep play action shots down the middle of the field. He gives you, and look, he's got a good arm. I'm not going to tell you he can sling it now, okay? So he's got more arm talent, honestly, than I think anybody that played at Utah last year, right? Because we saw with this team, the quarterbacks, that's what sunk them. Even from making a bowl game, the defense was good. Their O-line was still good. It was just the quarterback. If you get the Devin Dampier that we saw at New Mexico last year, or even a better version of that, you got a dangerous football team now because Last year, Utah, they had, was it the second worst or the worst passing grade in the Power 4?
Worst.
I think it was them or Iowa, right?
They were the worst, yeah.
I mean, so if you're going from the worst and you're getting a dynamic athlete like Devin Dampier in here starting behind that O-line, this can be a problem. This could be a real problem for the rest because you and me, like I said, New Mexico, they didn't even make a bowl game, but their offense was an issue. And we watched Devin Dampier from the start to the end of the last year, and we're like, man, this kid can play.
I remember like week 1 or week 2 when I think they played Arizona. I was like, who is this kid out here? Plays out here. I was like, and then Devin Dampier had a great year. Yeah.
They pulled the upset, called the upset, over Washington State late in the year too. I mean, outgunning John Mateer in a game between maybe the two best running quarterbacks in football last year. Devin Dampier is a problem. If he gets a little bit more consistent as a passer, this is going to be a dangerous offense.
I'm so happy he got the opportunity to move up to a Power 4 job because I think he really could break out next year. And I'm so happy he could play behind an outstanding offensive line led by the best offensive lineman in the country, in our opinion, in Spencer Fano, who led all FBS tackles last year with a 93 PFF grade. 93.6 run blocking grade was more than over 3 points higher than anyone else in college football. He finishes the second most valuable Power 4 tackle according to a wins above average metric. The only one above him, Calvin Banks Jr., top 10 pick in the 2025 draft. Spencer Fano could be a top 10 pick in the 2026 NFL draft. If you're wondering, not a bad pass blocker either. 79.5 pass blocking grade, top 30 mark among all Power 4 tackles. The best offensive lineman in the country, top 5 player overall. He is going to be a fantastic player for Utah this year, Dalton. And I remember you mentioned the comparison before to Talisa Fuanga. And just these wide zone, outside zone, just guys going to put you on a sled and pancake you out there. I see a lot of the same things with Spencer Fano.
Yeah, I think whether he plays, I know you've brought up questions about his length, about whether he's going to play tackle or guard in the NFL. Honestly, I don't really care.
He'll be an all-pro guard.
Because one of those Kyle Shanahan, Kevin O'Connell, Kevin Stefanski, Sean McVay, somebody's going to pick this guy up to play either tackle or guard to run that outside zone scheme, and he's going to be a monster. And he's a monster already at Utah. I think the combination of Fano and Caleb Lomu on the other side with this tackle duo, it's spectacular. And honestly, again, if you're a quarterback like Devin Dampier, you really right now in college football couldn't ask for a better offensive line, especially for his skill set, the way these guys maul people in the run game. You couldn't ask for any better situation for a quarterback like Dampier to come into. But Fano's a superstar, and at this point, if he plays anything like he did last year, you have yourself a top 10 pick.
Absolutely. So, Dalton, who is the star defensive player from what was a really good defense last year?
It was, and a guy I really like is their free safety, Tao Johnson. Now, the year before in 2023, he played more in the nickel, kind of average football he played out there. They moved him to free safety last year. You want, just like I talked about with Bud Clark at TCU, you want a heat-seeking missile? Tao Johnson is it. I'm expecting with the way that he flies to the football. He only had one interception last year, but I think there's going to be more of that coming this year. I think he's going to have more ball production. He absolutely flies to the ball, especially down near the line of scrimmage, too, from that free safety spot. He's looking for big hits. He's a big hitter, sometimes so much so that he doesn't wrap up and misses a handful of tackles, but I'll take it for the attitude he gives you. He's got two things, speed and aggressiveness back there at free safety. He's going to be an NFL player as well, and for as much as Utah loves to run single high defenses, one of the highest man coverage rates in the country, one of the highest cover one rates in the country, he's the one back there who's making things happen. He's the spine of it all. Even I almost even got, without the ball production, the Xavier Watts feel. It's just that guy. It's that single high free safety that gives you the speed and gives you that awareness to the ball and making plays on the ball that you absolutely love. Tao Johnson's a star for this team.
He's one of the best center fielders in all of college football. 85 coverage grade last year. Former wide receiver, too. So, yes, only one pick last year, but he's got the hands to make a lot more plays in the football next year. I can't wait to watch him again because I think you're right. I think he could be one of the best single high safeties in all of college football going into next year. Dawn, their win total right now is set at 7.5. Do you think Utah will be better than that, or will they go under that win total and have maybe another kind of disappointing year once again in the Big 12?
I'm in on Utah. I'm in on Utah. I'm in on Devin Dampier. I think the improvement, the quarterback situation, you just mentioned it, worst passing grade in the entire Power 4 at I think like bottom 5 or 6 in the country. If Dampier, and we've got, what a matchup we've got week 1. They get to go to the Rose Bowl and play Nico and UCLA week 1. Man, oh man, that's a fun one. Maybe two of the best, maybe the two of the best. I know Carson Beck's in there also, but two of the best transfer quarterbacks in the country. Give me the over, though. I'm taking over 7.5. I'm with it. I don't know if they're the favorite, but I do like Utah to contend this year. I think it's a bounce back. They're so well coached. Even in the games last year where they were struggling, most of them were tight. right? They were causing problems. You think about the BYU game that went down to the wire. You win that game, you make a bowl game, right? They weren't that far away last year, and they had absolutely no quarterback to speak of. If Dampier is as good as we think he is, they're going to compete in the Big 12. Give me over 7.5 all day.
I am all over this over 7.5 too. In fact, I know it's aggressive considering they went 5-7 last year. I would think about making it 9.5. I think there's a really good chance that Utah can go at least 9-3, if not 10-2 or better next year. I think
there's fun games with all these. First of all,
they play Texas Tech.
UCLA week 1 is going to be fun just for the. Well, it's the first game, and we're going to see it all for both teams. Yeah. It's going to be fun. But Texas Tech, Arizona State, Kansas State, but they get all 3 of those teams at home.
That's what I'm saying.
And at Utah, that's still, even last year, was still one of the hardest places to play in the country. Because what is it, before last year they had lost like 1 game at home in the last like 5 years, and that was to Bo Nix at Oregon. Let me see this real quick. 1-2-0. I'm just looking at their home record here. 2-2. They still, okay, obviously they're losing games because they didn't have a quarterback, but like that, other than last year, is one of the toughest home environments, and they're getting all those teams at home. Utah's a dangerous team.
That's what I'm saying. 8.5 was at least what I would have set it at. Maybe even 9.5.
Because there's nobody in the conference over 8.5.
No, I'm taking the over.
I'm over. I'm in on the Utah bounce back.
I think I'm leaning towards. I think I might lean towards the Utah Texas Tech in my Big 12 title game. So I'm going to pick. I think I'm definitely going over 7.5.
I'm not there to make a picky jumping ship on the Sun Devils, are you? Okay.
I'm not jumping ship. I do love our Sun Devils.
This is why this year in the Big 12.
I do love our Sun Devils.
This is going to be a fun year in the Big 12 because going into last year, we have no idea.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.